since the Russians just rolled into Crimea, there's been a lot of concern about what happens if Putin decides to cut off oil and gas supplies to Ukraine, Western Europe, because Russia's their #1 source of energy. And that, in turn, has finally gotten people in America to care about taking our own bountiful natural gas reserves and exporting them. Which brings me to Cheniere Energy, LNG, the leading player when it comes to taking our domestic natural gas, liquefying it so it can be transported by boat, and shipping the stuff overseas. Of course, it takes many years to build an LNG export facility, but Cheniere has a leg up on the competition because they're taking existing LNG import terminals and converting them for export use. Cheniere's building 2 facilities, the Sabine Pass terminal in Louisiana and another one in Corpus Christi, Texas. The company just had an analyst day 3 days ago where they talk about the progress that they're making with the government, the permitting process. It's so difficult, as well as the contracts they're signing to sell liquefied natural gas once the terminals are up and running. Now, I've been behind the stock, as well as its high-yielding subsidiary, Cheniere Energy Partners, for ages. LNG's giving you a quick 25% gain since we last spoke to the CEO 3 months ago. Let's check in with Charif Souki, the visionary chairman and CEO of Cheniere Energy, find out more about how his company's doing and where it is headed. Mr. Souki, welcome back to Mad Money. Good to see you, sir.
Again, good to see you.
Have a seat. Thank you.
Thank you.
When we first heard about the Kremlin in Kiev, it was pretty clear that the media kind of didn't understand because they know we have a lot of natural gas. They figured just put it on a ship and send it there. It doesn't work like that, does it?
I wish. No, it takes many years to really first plan it and organize it properly, file for all the permits that you need to file. You're at least 2 to 3 years in the planning process. And then if you have a good site and you prepare it carefully, it takes another 4 to 5 years till you get your first LNG.
So you're talking about the freeing up of our natural gas is really something that could happen in 2020 other than your company, probably.
Well, I think it's going to come slowly, starting in 2016 when our first train arrives, and then probably we'll have our first competition late in 2018, maybe 2019. And it'll be a slow ramp up, but it will get there. By 2020, I think we'll have 4 or 5 facilities with the ability to export.
All right, well, let's talk about your analyst day, because it looks like that you really kind of laid out how it's all going. But there were surprises. Our viewers knew that you had 6 trains, and they weren't all spoken for yet. It looks like things are really heating up in your world.
Well, in the last 3 months, we've signed 1 more train. So we now have 6 trains sold. And between Corpus Christi and Sabine Pass, we're going to have a total of 9 trains with the ability to export about 6 BCF a day.
Now, that's one of the reasons why people said to me, Jim, the stock just can't keep going up. And I always say, not with the same set of circumstances, but if they expand, if there's more liquids that can be shipped besides natural gas, then the progression of the stock actually makes sense. You're not standing still.
No, we don't like doing that.
No.
So, in fact, you never stand still. Either you progress or you go forward, backwards. So, no, we very, very much focused on all the infrastructure that is required in this country, not simply for natural gas, but also for all the products that come with it. As you know, we have now gone in the last 3 years from having rigs drilling 80% for gas and 20% for oil to exactly the opposite.
Right.
We are now drilling 80% for oil and 20% for gas. So, and you have the same rig count. We're at about 1,800 rigs, I think, drilling about 40,000 wells per year. So that's an enormous amount of drilling. And it's showing in the results. The production of liquids is increasing just as fast as natural gas was increasing 3 years ago.
But not all liquids are allowed to be exported.
That's correct. Condensates and light crudes are not allowed to be exported, but you're starting to have some serious bottlenecks in South Texas, for instance, where we've saturated the ability of the local markets to consume. We have saturated the ability of the infrastructure to move it to East Coast refineries. So we're starting to find ourselves in a predicament now where the producers are looking at their outlets and they're not finding them. So I can't tell you how many more months or years it's going to take, but not too distant future. We're going to have some real issues about having the ability to find new markets, not simply for natural gas, but for everything else too.
But there's a clear takeaway here, which is that those who are worried that we are going to have a spike in our natural gas and natural gas liquids because so many people are going to do what you're doing, obviously seem very misinformed after both talking about the coming glut that's even worse and the fact that the permitting process, which you detail here, is much more difficult than most companies seem to realize.
I think people are starting to find out because, as always, when you have an opportunity, people start asking questions.
Right.
And slowly people dig into all the different issues and get to the bottom of it. So it's not a secret anymore. The process is fairly fair, but long and cumbersome. You just have to get it done.
Some people think that your latest trains that you want to do are way behind in the approval process, that there are many others ahead of you, and that could cause a screw-up.
Okay, that's a tremendous confusion. If you look at what the DOE permitting process is and this famous queue that people are talking about.
Well, they are. There's page after page about it.
It's a queue for a contingent license. It doesn't give you the right to export until you get your FERC permit.
Okay.
It doesn't address what happens once you get your FERC permit. Let me take an example. Lake Charles has received its contingent license from the DOE before Cameron. Cameron is going to be ready to break ground sometime this year, towards the end of the year, maybe early next year. Lake Charles is not ready for another 2 years because they've just started
All right, so
the
there's
FERC permit.
All right.
So Cameron is going to receive its permit way before Lake Charles, although they're behind Lake Charles in the famous queue.
Okay, well, that's good, because that's why, because people have been saying, I mean, we've all been saying it, which is like, it's just all happening too quickly and too good. But now I understand you have the infrastructure, you're ready. So don't look at
Once you have your FERC permit, they can't slow you down.
There you go, and I know you've got them. That was Charif Souki, the chairman, president, and CEO of Cheniere Energy LNG. Okay, the deck, so to speak, is really long. But before you buy the stock up here, I want you to look at the deck from the analyst meeting. It's all available. It takes a long time to read, but you need to do your homework. Stay with Cramer.